everyone thinks yeah, esports players are like these 16-year-olds. Like for like the guy who won the Fortnite tournament, or Fortnite World Cup, I should say. He won like I don't know like millions of dollars, and he's only 16 years old. And you have like these people who are just going from the academy teams and going to the Overwatch League right at 18. They get signed on their birthday sometimes. But some of the players in esports, like I would say Surefour and I believe Bonnie, are like 26, 28, some even reaching 30. And the thing is, though, is that how long are those players going to last, though? We don't know the exact cutoff age for esports because it's still a fairly new industry. It's fairly a new thing that we're trying to do, right? We know like the basic cutoff age for football, for basketball, and stuff like that, right? It's generally all around the same area of like, like late 30s, early 40s, something like that, right? When it comes to those sports, but when it comes to esports, though, I think there should be more research done. It's like, okay, when do people start having a sort of reaction time? When do people like they're gonna become more wiser? That's the good thing. But what is the point where it's just like, is this enough worth investing into this player? So as the esports industry grows and grows and grows, if that turns out to be late 30s, early 40s, the same as normal sports, then by all means, I think it will bring a legitimacy to the college scene. But the thing is, though, is that there's a stigma going around that collegiate is especially NA collegiate, tends to be a bit, I want to say scuffed.
It's a super good way to get people to go to your college because college numbers are down. So they're using it as a way to get more people interested in it. I mean, the Army is using it as a way to get people to join the Army. So it's another benefit of focusing people through the school system. So starting, like, say if there is esports in elementary, middle, high school, and then college, and then it kind of focuses in that regard. As far as, I mean, the way it's changing some of the structures of the status quo, like NCAA, I think was recently changed to allow sponsorships for athletes. I heard that it was because of esports. Because esports players that are in college level, college age range, get paid thousands of dollars by sponsors to play video games. And if they want them to be a part of the NCAA for collegiate level sports, they can't have sponsorships. So why would they join and be a part of college if they can't have sponsorships? So from my understanding, California was like, well, either you need to allow this or we're just going to leave and pull out of the NCAA. And NCAA is like, not it. We'll change it. So there's, different, it's esports is a way of disrupting the status quo. Similar to the way Uber has disrupted the taxi and how Airbnb has disrupted the hotel industry. So esports is doing that, but it has a much higher viewership. I mean, the viewership is higher than the Super Bowl, and it's a global phenomenon, whereas the Super Bowl is just America and nobody goes to games anymore. Well, we promote at our store social gaming in the sense that people can make friends, come in. If they've never been here before, a lot of them will make friends with others because they'll start playing the same game. We had one guy, he goes by the name Apollo, and he was playing League of Legends. He was like hard-struck silver. And so by playing with the customers and playing in our event randoms, which we had tonight, he was able to finally get to gold or finally rank up to something that he hasn't been before. And all of the other customers kind of cheered him on and congratulated him. And he's never felt that way. He's a military guy that's experienced other game centers and nowhere near the amount of friendships that he's made here has he made anywhere else.
So my name is Kevin Nguyen, and I just recently graduated from the university, actually last semester, so it's pretty crazy that I'm doing this now. But now I'm working as the UH Esports Program Assistant, in which we try to bring esports and video games and technology to basically all students of Manoa, and actually all the University of Hawaii systems, so not just Manoa. Some teams are practicing like normal athletes. The money is there. I don't know if the money's there in college yet. I think it's growing, but if these guys are going to practice like athletes, 4 times a week, 4 hours a day, just like a typical basketball or football player. They get compensated. They get scholarship. They get full rides. Right now, schools are just trying to, I would call it flex scholarships, in which they just say, oh, we're giving $30,000 scholarship. Okay, great. That sounds like a lot. And then you look at their tuition and it's like $60,000. Like, that's still nothing, you know? Like, you're gonna pay $30,000 a year out of pocket. That's still rough. Like, we want to make it so that eventually we can get to that point where if you're gonna play like an athlete, you can get compensated for it. You should, essentially. And so it's also a little bit different too, because the college ecosystem, by winning you get money. Because with collegiate esports, it's right now it's not like the NFL or NBA where when you win you get recognized, essentially, and that's when you get drafted. That's when the big bucks come in. Right now, collegiate, if you win, you're not getting drafted. If you're winning, it's for that experience. Because if you're gonna get drafted by a team, you would have been already playing. Like, you would have been playing at 7. Think about it. If you're in collegiate esports, you're probably not good enough, which is not a mean thing. Like, I think it will get there where we're creating a training system from young ages where they will get drafted. But that's a long time. That's a generational thing.
Okay, so I am now Sky Calverloa. I'm a PhD candidate at the Communication Information Sciences program here at UH. And I do research on esports, especially college esports, and I'm also in charge of developing the UH esports program here with my assistant, Kevin Nguyen, who is a full-time hire in UH for the program. I think games serve many purposes in our lives. For me, it was the ability to, I think competition was, or at least the ability to compete with somebody that was there just to compete. It kind of reminded me of like martial arts, because I did take Taekwondo at the time. So it was even more thrilling than actual physical martial arts at the time for me. It's strange to say, because I did literally do Taekwondo at the same time I was playing Street Fighter. And I would get more hyped for the game itself. I would be more nervous, right? It's very odd to think that way, right? Because you would think, like, you know, if you're doing traditional, you know, Taekwondo match, you'd feel more nervous and excited, but it was never the case. It was always this ability to go to this machine and to compete. And I guess some part of that was also the spectatorship part of it, where I felt watched compared to in traditional sports, where when I was doing Taekwondo, I didn't feel like there was an audience, right? Like, you're literally in your dojo and you're kind of like competing with people, but you're just kind of like, you're in a room with like maybe 6, 7, 8, or 9 other people, but you didn't feel like it was a spectator event. But the arcade always felt like a spectator event, and that got me hyped. That got me going all the time. Because when I played Street Fighter in San Diego, so I grew up in San Diego, California, it was in arcades that were pretty rough, right? These were like not pristine places. It's not like the Fun Factory. These were arcades where you had like some of the hardest like Mexican gangs hanging out. And so I would play these games with like straight up criminals, and they were really good. And so it was this really weird combination of the thrill of playing Street Fighter 2, the sound of the game itself. Like, you know, it just, everything was quite like just censorious. Everything, like the whole thing was just, it bombarded my senses. But at the same time, I was playing it in an environment that was very, very precarious. You know, especially for us in Hawaii, we are in a weird situation where everything takes place in this sort of global scale. But it's because of us in Hawaii. If we want to take it seriously, it's very difficult. You have to invest a lot of time. You got to invest a lot of effort. So my hope is that we can accomplish some of these goals through the university, through the infrastructure of the university itself and the university name. Yeah, the fighting game community, I think, is just an absolutely fantastic grassroots. I mean, still, even though they hold a major event, it's, you know, attendance up to 15,000, growing every year in Las Vegas, it still has a deeply grassroots feeling to it. But what excites me about video games early on is different from what excites me about video games right now. Early on, it was the the multiplayer experience with the ability to play with somebody that you don't know, and to play with strangers, and to kind of just get right into it. But what excites me now about video games is the development of it as an esport. So I think esport has a very sort of has a number of connotations. When we talk about esports, originally we were just talking about playing games competitively. Now we have this word esport. And it's very different now, because esport is not just playing games competitively. Esport I think the full sense of the word is a media product. And you can't talk about esports without talking about media. It's almost impossible. If a game is not streamed, is it really esports? And so I think that part of it right now excites me, is esports as a media production, as a franchise, as a league, as something that looks or could replicate some aspects of sport. I don't fully believe esports is a sport. I know there is that big question, and it's not because I don't think players are not as dedicated and full of passion as traditional sports players, but I think there are meaningful ways in which esports has unique aspects that traditional sports right now does not, and probably will have in the future. Like, for example, media production. I think esports media production is way ahead in certain aspects than traditional media production. And so I think there are ways in which we can say they're not the same. And so, yeah, that excites me, is to kind of tease out and to kind of like explore ways in which this field of competitive play is going to create, I think, what I believe to be the future of sport entertainment.